And I'll get this thing punched.
Jeff from 2Hacks Garage. Well, back at Jimmy's shop. It's an early Sunday morning. Back on Project Jumpin' Jack Flash. This is part 2 of building an engine plate. In yesterday's video, what you saw, well, Jimmy and I took a raw piece of aluminum, 1/4 inch thick, 26 by 26, and we started making our engine plate. The first important part was actually getting it to go down in the chassis and getting the holes aligned for the bell housing on this. I get here, Jimmy's already working, and it's already early. He's going to be doing some transfer punching on some of the holes on the chassis to get that in place. And we're going to end up drilling a big old hole in this for the crankshaft, which we'll explain here in a little bit. With that, guys, it's an early morning. We got a whole lot of work to do left on this.
I've been out here since 6:30.
Yeah, he's been out here since 6:30. I'm rambling. It's time to get to work. Let me show you what we got going on here.
Because old people don't sleep.
Yeah, old people don't sleep. I must be getting old, Jimmy, because I couldn't sleep either.
No.
He says
I'm not hearing you complain about other things old people have problems with.
That's
not getting that old yet.
That's true. I'm not that old yet, but Jimmy does have more hair than me. It's comedy hour once again at Jimmy's shop. With that, let me show you what we got going on. All right, so as you saw in the last video, what we did is we had the 26 by 26 piece of aluminum, and we went ahead and got it cut between the frame rails here, radiused it, got everything in place, got all our bell housing bolts lined up, and now Jimmy's doing some more transfer punching. This mark right here is the center of the crankshaft. We actually have to remeasure that and move that up a little bit, because what you need to do is you got to have a hole in there that's going to connect your torque converter to the back of the crankshaft. And that's what this is here. 6-inch here. Did some research. 6-inch is exactly what we need. So what we're going to do now is, what Jimmy's working on is we got to put the lower tabs on for the lower portion of the frame.
I got them tackled. I got them basically one side of them welded.
If you look right there, there's a tab there. Well, we got to have one there, and it's going on the bottom. So what Jimmy's doing is he's taking a transfer punch and he's putting that transfer punch in there so we can pull that, get those holes drilled, and get everything in place. With that, guys, I'm rambling. As you can see, Jimmy's working. We got to get at it. See you soon. All right, so what you saw us do there is we cut the center hole. So if you kind of look here, you see the input shaft here, and the torque converter will be on the other side. The crankshaft of the engine will sit back here, and our flex plate flywheel, it'll also be on the inside. So basically, what that's going to allow us to have is a really solid engine plate to this. A lot of them you see are open. Those aren't as solid. Also, if some of those ever come apart, you get a little bit extra protection. But yeah, so this is our engine plate as we have it now. We got all the holes drilled, as you can see. We went ahead and chamfered them all, so it's not sharp edges. It's nice and neat. Got this all drilled and cut. Pretty good in place. So what kind of we need to do now is we got a couple of odds and ends to take care of. Jimmy and I need to discuss on how we're going to shape this and cut it. So with that, you know what, guys, we're going to get back to work. I hope that all makes sense now of why we did it this way.
No, Jimmy and him's not going to talk about it because I already know it.
Yeah, he already knows.
I figured it out this morning.
He needs to explain it to me. So we got to put our
3 a.m. when I must have been dreaming of it, unfortunately.
yeah, this is one of those projects you're always waking up in the middle of the night thinking about. But I'm going to have Jimmy explain to me his thoughts on that. But as you can see, it's coming together quite nicely. In fact, let me show you kind of the back side of this. So yeah, that's what it's, 1/4-inch thick engine plate. Yeah, this is what I'm talking about. We got to figure out the shape on that, what we're doing. So with that, guys, we're going to get to work. See you in a few. All right, a little bit of a progress check here. So basically what Jimmy and I did, we had a discussion, and you see off our tabs here. So we're going to have a side panel that comes across here. So you don't want this sticking out a lot. So we took our measurements where it needed to be, and we scribed up to roughly 1/2 inch above the actual top of the transmission. So that's going to sit a little bit higher than the engine, which is going to be nice. Not much, but it'll be a nice kind of deflection, because you got to remember, our cowl is going to start coming up here, and it's going to go down and meet there. So that's the height that we got it, where it's going to be kind of a sleek design. Obviously, we still have room for all our feet and stuff in there. And so what we did then is we're talking about like an 8-inch circle radius. So on each side measured 4 in, 4 down, 4 in, 4 down. And what I did there is off that center point, I went ahead and then scribed it like that. With that, guys, we do have a whole lot of cutting to do. Not sure if we're going to get to it yet, but I'm going to go ahead and talk to Jimmy and see what our next steps are with that. Hope that kind of makes sense. You can kind of see the design that we're going to go with roughly right now. Obviously, things are always subject to change because, yeah, constructive arguments between Jimmy and I are fun. Later. So what Jimmy and I were just doing there is we were looking at where our cowl was going to go, and we took that straight edge and we took it across to a point on the chassis. So our windshield, if you want to call it, it's going to be starting up here, and it'll actually wrap around. So we were actually just getting a rough measurement, not a measurement, but an angle of where that's going to be to make sure we have room. You got to remember, there's going to be some stuff put in here. I still need leg room. I still need to be able to get in and out. So we're kind of thinking 2 or 3 steps ahead of what we need to do. There's a lot of guys that run a higher body panel on this side, kind of protects you from the tires. That's more of a modern take on the front engine dragster. I'm going with the Jimmy old school take on front engine dragsters. I really like the nostalgia part, and this is what this car is going to stick to. So it's going to be a low panel car. There's a lot of good references online, but there's also a lot of good references we have up here on Jimmy's wall. And Jimmy knows his cars that he built, new and old. So yeah, that's what we're kind of using, along with just putting our minds together. So yeah, we kind of know where our cowl's going to go, and that's where we're at. We still got a whole lot of work to do, thinking 2 steps ahead. There we go. See you in a few. Real quick, guys, before we actually go cutting the rest of our engine plate, what we were going to do, Jimmy determined this morning when I was gone, we're actually going to put a cross support from here to there. And what that's going to do is, if you look, we have one in the back and we've got one down further. We need something more in the center of this with the structural integrity, if you want to call it, going across here. That's going to keep it from wanting to pinch, moving back and forth and flex this way. That'll help keep everything with our engine going forward and our transmission going back, kind of square, straight with the world. So Jamie's going to go ahead and take care of that now, and I will see you in a few. Real quick, guys, what we're doing, Jimmy and I got to go get a certain cutting blade for the engine plate. So until we go in town to go do that, we got to do a few other things. We had discussed putting a couple more braces up front. Not really a brace. We're adding a couple 7/8 tubes like this. Because what these are going to be end up using for up front is we're going to make a bracket. It's going to be for weight ballast. We decided to do this. Well, I know we're working on the engine plate, but we added that cross member on the bottom for structural support. He got talking, said, hey, might as well get these in place before we go get that blade. So that's what we're working on now. See you in a few. All right, so what I just did was I actually drew out our cuts. If you look here where it's black, that's our radius. That's just to help give you a visualization when you're cutting this, because it's, aluminum and you got, same color blade and all that. That's just going to allow you to help see it better. I did the same thing on the other side, so we know our radiuses. Let me get over here and kind of get a better view of this for you. And this is an expensive piece of aluminum. Took a little while to get in. So basically what I have done here is I laid out our cuts. Jimmy and I talked. So we got our cut 1 and then we got our cut 2 at that angle. That's just to help when we go to do the radiuses on there, get a bunch of that junk out of the way. Then you go from here, shorter cut, cut 3. You come over here, do the same thing with your cut 4 and then your cut 5. So you're going to take the big portion off first. You're going to take your angles off, your little piece, angle off, little piece, and that's going to be that part. And then from there, Jimmy and I can get the radiuses in there. And if you take a look on that, adding that black, it just helps you see it when you go in here to actually cut it. You're just not looking at straight aluminum. You have something to go off of, a visualization of what you need. So yeah, that's our next step. Jimmy and I need to go get a blade, but as you can see, it's starting to come together. 2 brains are better than 1. I know Jimmy's older than me, but he's a whole hell of a lot smarter than me. Later. Well, there we have it. There is the engine plate. We took that 26 by 26 inch square piece of 1/4 inch aluminum, did a whole lot of measuring, drilling, cutting, all that fun jazz. But as you can see, it's actually quite a bit better than our original one, which I will grab real quick and show you the difference. It's a lot more rigid, solid. It's going to provide a lot more protection also in case there were something happen, even though it is aluminum. But yeah, there's our original. As you can see, it was only held on by one chassis tab, which is not right. And you can see what was causing was that crack there. Yeah, 2 cracks. So it's held in with 4 chassis tabs in the correct location. Yeah, it's pretty neat. I dig it. Come back and take a look at the back. Pretty wild. And what this is going to allow us to do, here's a better look there. So you got the upright for the chassis tab there and the bottom one. That's the same thing on each side. And like I said earlier, what this is going to allow us to do now that we got this in place, what we showed you earlier, is we're going to come off of there and you can see kind of where that line is. That's going to be kind of the direction of our cowl. So yeah, that was part 2 of fabricating the engine plate. I'm happy the way it turned out. Looks nice. Dig it. Got a whole lot more work to do. Jimmy and I are talking, kind of some next steps. We need to do a pinion support. We need to get a parachute mount in. We need to get the aluminum for the body. Never-ending story. With that, guys, we'll see you in the next one.